So, you've watched Babygirl. Whether you saw it as an erotic thriller, a psychological character study, or a cultural Rorschach test, one thing is clear. It's focused on power, control, and how women navigate the minefield of identity, sexuality, and self-expression in a world still preoccupied with appearances. What changed how I viewed Babygirl entirely was a quiet but significant reference. Romy's husband, Jacob, is directing a production of Hedda Gabler. To many, this might seem like a throwaway detail, but for those familiar with Ibsen's 1891 play, it opens a deeper intertextual conversation. Hedda Gabler is a landmark in theatrical history, a claustrophobic, psychologically rich drama centered on a woman who cannot accept the role society has given her. By placing Hedda Gabler inside Babygirl, director Helena Rain invites us to consider Romy as a contemporary Hedda, a woman caught between performance and authenticity, control and submission, and selfhood and societal script. Seen side by side, these two works form a compelling dialogue. Both Babygirl and Hedda Gabler explore the internal conflict of women living within confining social roles. But while Hedda Gabler punishes its protagonist for transgressing social norms, Babygirl reimagines that transgression, not as fatal, but as something to be processed, explored, and ultimately accepted. Let's start with Hedda Gabler. The play follows Hedda, newly married to the well-meaning but dull George Tessman. As she returns from her honeymoon to a life full of routine and expectation, she's bored, restless, and resentful of the domestic world closing in on her. When an old flame, Eilert Lovborg, re-enters her life with newfound success and sobriety, Hedda's sense of control and significance is deeply threatened. She manipulates him into drinking again, destroys his life's work, his manuscript, and contributes to his ruin. Eventually, when threatened with blackmail by the predatory Judge Brack, Hedda chooses to end her own life rather than face submission. Hedda has long fascinated critics. Is she a victim or a villain? A proto-feminist or a sociopath? Maybe she's a bit of all of these things. But above all, she's a woman driven to the margins by a system that offers her no space to live authentically. In Babygirl, we meet Romy, the CEO of a sleek, AI-powered warehouse delivery system. A woman who operates at the center of precision, automation, and control. She's powerful, successful, and admired. But beneath the surface, there's a quiet unraveling. In the film, Romy begins an affair with Samuel, her much younger intern. And through this relationship, she begins to explore a desire not for chaos, but for submission and risk, the antithesis of the hyper-functioning control she maintains in every other part of her life. Like Hedda, Romy is not likable in a conventional sense. She is cold, controlled, enigmatic, but it's in this very refusal to be emotionally legible that her agency lies. She seeks out intensity not to destroy others like Hedda does, but to dismantle the performance of herself. Both women are engaged in a subversive act, not one of outward rebellion, but of inner deconstruction. Both perform the roles expected of them. Hedda performs the elegant, composed housewife, and Romy the polished CEO, wife, and mother. But both are deeply fractured and deeply aware of it. Postmodern theory tells us that identity is not fixed or natural, but constructed, performative, and shaped by cultural forces. Judith Butler famously argued that gender is a kind of performance in and of itself, and both Hedda and Romy are actresses trapped in roles they didn't audition for. Romy, like Hedda, exists in a world where speech is rarely used to express truth. Instead, language is a tool for control, concealment, and performance. Ludwig Wittgenstein's concept of language games is especially relevant here. In Hedda Gabler, Hedda uses ironic detachment and evasive speech to hide her vulnerability. In Babygirl, Romy does the same, speaking in curated corporate language and hiding her weaknesses, even as she crumbles internally. Following the confession of her affair, she continues to withhold the details from Jacob, not just out of shame, but because full honesty would mean vulnerability, and vulnerability is dangerous in a world that punishes complex women. What's remarkable is how Babygirl departs from the narrative arc we've come to expect from women like Hedda. Traditionally, stories about women who act outside societal bounds end in exile, madness, or death. But Romy isn't punished, not in the conventional sense at least. She doesn't lose everything. In fact, it might appear as if she doesn't lose anything. Instead, she moves through ambiguity, tension, and confrontation, with Jacob, her family, and her colleagues, sure, but mainly with herself. This is where the film's recurring motif of the black dog becomes so powerful. We see it snarling, lunging, and barely restrained. A threat, yes, but also a symbol. The black dog, historically a metaphor for depression, here becomes something more layered. The animality of Romy's desire, her inner rage, her shame. It represents the part of her that is wild, unsocialized, and uncontrollable. The part she tries to suppress through cryotherapy, injectables, and EMDR. She cannot reason with the dog, she can only acknowledge it, and only through this will she learn to tame it. And this, I think, is the most radical difference between Babygirl and Hedda Gabler. Hedda's story is a tragedy, a cautionary tale about what happens when women refuse to conform. Romy's story, on the other hand, is something else. It's not a triumph, but it is a refusal to collapse under the weight of contradiction. She doesn't choose between submission or dominance, she integrates both. Her desire to be overpowered doesn't erase her strength. Her moral ambiguity doesn't negate her intelligence. In a postmodern world where identity is fluid and power is relational, Romy becomes a symbol not of despair, but of possibility. Interestingly, Jacob's direction of Hedda Gabler also becomes a mirror of his own emotional journey throughout the film. When Samuel confronts him, accusing him of having dated and generational ideas about female sexuality, Jacob is visibly shaken and has a panic attack. It's a moment of real rupture. The story he's telling himself about control, fidelity, and gender is unraveling. But being immersed in the world of Hedda Gabler, a play about a woman punished for desiring more, may be precisely what allows Jacob to shift. Rather than seeing Romy as a threat to his masculinity and to their life together, he begins to see her as someone searching for freedom within a deeply scripted life. Babygirl never gives us a melodramatic reconciliation, but there is a movement towards forgiveness, or at least towards understanding, and that movement is radical. In the end, Babygirl offers us something Hedda Gabler never could: the idea that female complexity doesn't have to end in doom, that a woman can be contradictory, morally ambiguous, sexually curious, emotionally frayed, and yet still be worthy of empathy. That her story doesn't have to resolve neatly to be meaningful. So while Hedda Gabler and Babygirl share striking thematic parallels, both centering on women struggling with agency, desire, and performance, Babygirl represents an evolution. It reframes female transgression not as a fatal flaw, but as terrain for growth and self-discovery. And in doing so, it suggests a future where stories about women don't end with their erasure, but with their becoming. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. In case you missed it, everything I share here is my personal take and opinion. The beauty of media is that it can mean different things to everyone. Please drop your thoughts and feelings in the comments below, and let's get chatting.